20 years, Mr. Jackson. That's what happens when your kind thinks you can outsmart the system. Judge Morrison doesn't look up from his papers. Marcus Jackson stands in orange, spine straight. Morrison's head snaps up. Did I tell you to stand there like an idiot? Sit down! The gavel crashes. Your Honor, that's 5 times. Morrison cuts him off. Are you deaf or just stupid, counselor? I don't want to hear it. Jackson's mother grips the rail, knuckles white. From the back row, a man in a worn blazer watches, fingers on a recording device. He
7
counts
this
silently.
month. You
7
never
this
learn.
month. People like
That's
you never
why we have
learn,
cages.
Morrison continues. That's why we have cages. Jackson's mother collapses, hitting the floor. Morrison doesn't glance over. Bailiff, remove the trash. Next case. The observer's jaw tightens. The device keeps recording. Have you ever watched evil wear a judge's robe? Want more touching stories that expose injustice and inspire change? These real-life stories reveal how ordinary people fight extraordinary battles. Subscribe to hear more Black stories of courage against systemic oppression. 3 months earlier, case files covered Marcus Hayes' desk like fallen leaves. Coffee rings stained conviction records dating back 5 years. Each folder told the same story in different words. White defendant, probation. Black defendant, maximum sentence. Hayes' fingers trembled as he traced the pattern. His colleague Jennifer knocked. Still here? It's past midnight. He looked up, exhaustion etched in every line. These numbers, Jen, they're not just statistics. She entered, closing the door carefully. Morrison? He nodded. 743 cases. Average sentence for Black defendants, 18 years. For white defendants with identical charges, 3 years probation. The coffee maker gurgled in the corner. Jennifer sat down. You've got to be careful, Marcus. Judges protect their own. The next morning, Hayes met civil rights attorney Rebecca Miller at a diner off the highway. Bacon grease hung in the air. She spread photographs across the Formica table. Jamal Washington, honor student. First offense, minor possession. Witness POV, Rebecca. She watched Hayes' face change as he studied the before and after photos. 5 years in maximum security. His son doesn't recognize him anymore. Hayes pushed eggs around his plate. Statistics won't remove a judge. Rebecca leaned forward. Then we get more than statistics. The waitress refilled their coffee, eyes averted. Everyone knew, but no one spoke. That was the problem. Hayes spent the next week in the prison visiting room. Plexiglass barriers couldn't muffle the pain in Jamal's voice. My boy turned 8 yesterday. Hasn't seen me since he was 3. The phone static crackled between them. Judge Morrison looked at me like I wasn't human. Said I needed to be made an example. Witness POV, Jamal. Through the scratched barrier, he saw the prosecutor's jaw clench. Tell me everything, every word. Jamal's hands shook. He said you people at least 4 times. My lawyer objected. Morrison held him in contempt. The guard signaled time. Mr. Hayes, there's dozens like me. We all got Morrison. Late nights blurred together. Hayes reviewed courtroom recordings on his laptop. Morrison's tone shifted like Jekyll and Hyde. Professional with white defendants, venomous with black ones. Then he found it. Hot mic audio from a recess. Morrison to his clerk. Another thug off the streets. They multiply like... The recording cut off. Hayes rewound. Played it again. His phone buzzed. Rebecca. Channel 9 just ran a segment. 3 more families came forward. He stared at his reflection in the dark window. His cousin Deshaun's face stared back. Wrongfully convicted at 19. Died in prison at 21. Different judge. Same system. Hayes deleted his official email account. Went dark. His secretary would find the resignation letter Monday. By then, he'd be inside. Jennifer found him packing his office at 3 a.m. Marcus, what are you doing? He didn't look up. What I should have done years ago. She saw the false ID on his desk. Marcus Jackson. You're insane. You're the lead prosecutor. He finally met her eyes. Exactly. And I've sent how many innocent people to Morrison? She grabbed his arm. This isn't your fault. He pulled free gently. No, but stopping it is my responsibility. The janitor's cart squeaked past. Normal people doing normal jobs while injustice festered. Don't try to find me, Jen. When this is over, you'll understand. She watched him leave, knowing she'd already lost him to something bigger than career or safety. The courtroom erupted before Morrison's gavel finished falling. 19-year-old Malik Thompson, pre-med student, first offense, had just received 15 years. "You people never learn," Morrison had said, each word a nail in Justice's coffin. Malik's mother, Rose, screamed, "He's got a scholarship!" He made one mistake. Bailiffs moved forward. Morrison's face reddened. "Remove her!" Now. The gallery surged. Phones appeared despite the prohibition. Someone shouted, "This is America!" Morrison slammed the gavel repeatedly. "Clear the courtroom!" Rose Thompson collapsed. An EMT student tried to help. Chaos painted the halls of justice in ugly colors. Witness POV, gallery member. From the third row, teacher Patricia Williams live-streamed everything until security grabbed her phone. "Judge just said you people to a honor student. This is happening now. Morrison courtroom." Her post went viral before she reached the exit. Outside, reporter Amanda Torres caught witnesses streaming down the courthouse steps. "He gave that boy 15 years for what white kids get community service for." An elderly man in a veteran's cap spoke up. "Been watching Morrison 20 years. Only does this to us." She'd covered courts for a decade but never seen anything like this. Her cameraman, Jake, whispered, "We're live in 30 seconds. Behind them, more families gathered. Signs appeared. "Equal justice now." A mother held her son's graduation photo. "Morrison took my baby. 10 years for a traffic violation that escalated." The crowd grew. Police sirens wailed closer. The district attorney's office went into crisis mode. Hayes watched from across the conference table as his replacement fumbled. "We need this to blow over, not blow up," DA Morrison said. No relation to the judge, but the same protective instinct. "The community's demanding action." Deputy DA Chen cleared her throat. "Perhaps someone should do community outreach." Calm tensions. Hayes saw his opening. "I'll go. I know these families." The DA nodded, relieved. "Good. Make this go away, Marcus." Hayes stood. "I'll make it right." No one caught the distinction. That evening, Mount Zion Baptist Church overflowed. Families clutched photos of loved ones. Hayes sat in the back, hood up, listening. "My nephew got 20 years, a woman testified. "White boy, same charge, got rehab." Applause thundered. Reverend Jackson took the microphone. "We're done being statistics. Morrison's court is a pipeline to prison for our children." Deacon Williams noticed the hooded figure taking detailed notes. Something familiar about those shoulders. But when he looked again, the man had melted into the crowd. Outside, patrol cars circled like sharks. Inside, revolution simmered. Rebecca met Hayes at a closed coffee shop. "You sure about this?" He showed her the false documents. Marcus Jackson, 2 priors. Perfect target for Morrison. She studied the backstory. "Your prints?" "Chen has a friend in the system. They'll be blocked from triggering alerts." She slid a recording device across the table. "Military grade, waterproof, shock resistant." He pocketed it. "How do I look?" She studied his transformation. Cheaper clothes, different posture. The prosecutor was gone. "Like another statistic." He smiled grimly. "Perfect." Thunder rumbled outside. "Tomorrow night, 8th and MLK possession charge." She grabbed his hand. "Marcus, if this goes wrong..." "It won't. Morrison's going down." Lightning illuminated his face. For a second, she saw Deshawn's ghost. Then it was gone. The news cycle exploded. Social media hashtags trended. Hashtag Morrison must go. Hashtag justice for Malik. Hayes monitored from a burner phone. Each share, each outraged comment built the foundation. When Morrison fell, the world would be watching. His personal phone rang. Jennifer. He didn't answer. That life was over. Tomorrow, Marcus Jackson would be born into a system designed to destroy him. But hidden in his shoe would be the tool to destroy it back. The storm broke over the city. Rain washed the courthouse steps. But some stains went deeper than weather could reach. The transformation took 6 hours. Hayes stood before a cracked mirror in a motel room, watching Marcus Jackson emerge. Gone were the prosecutor's straight shoulders and confident gaze. He practiced the slouch he'd seen 1,000 times from defendants' tables. "Don't meet their eyes," Rebecca coached. "You're guilty before you walk in. That's how they want you to feel." She aged his clothes with sandpaper and bleach. "Your story: 2 possession charges, Oakland and Richmond. Did time in county?" He repeated the backstory until it felt real. Marcus Jackson, unemployed, 2 priors. His voice had already changed, dropping the crisp articulation that marked him as educated. Rebecca showed him photos. This morning, another teenager got 20 years from Morrison, white defendant same day. Anger management classes. Hayes memorized the contrast. The recording device, no bigger than a button, fit perfectly in his shoe sole. Military grade, like Rebecca promised. The arrest had to look real. 8th and Martin Luther King, where police concentrated their patrols. Hayes, now Jackson, loitered near the corner store. Rebecca watched from her car, heart hammering. 2 officers approached within minutes. Hands on the wall. Their rough handling wasn't an act. Even knowing it was staged, the cuffs bit into his wrists. "Found something," Officer Martinez announced, pulling a bag from the spot Rebecca had marked. Hayes didn't have to fake his flinch when they slammed him onto the hood. Witness POV, store owner. Through security glass, Mr. Kim watched another young black man arrested. Same corner, same story, same destination. He'd testify later how routine it looked, how nobody questioned it anymore. County lockup stripped away the last vestiges of Prosecutor Hayes. The orange jumpsuit hung loose. Other inmates sized him up immediately. "First time?" a man covered in prison tattoos asked. Hayes shook his head. "Third strike tomorrow." The man whistled. "Morrison?" Hayes nodded. "Then you're done, brother." He's got a quota, that word. Quota. Hayes mental filed it. In the corner, someone mumbled about private prisons and kickbacks. The recording device captured everything through his shoe. A younger inmate, barely 18, shook in the corner. "I just had a joint, man. 1 joint." Veterans laughed bitterly. "Morrison don't care. You're black. You're done." The stories poured out unprompted, each one evidence. 3 a.m. brought the real test. Hayes lay on the metal bench, listening to despair's symphony. Toilets flushing, men crying, guards laughing. This wasn't observation anymore. This was immersion. His cellmate Rico had been through Morrison's court twice. First time, 5 years. Had a gram on me. White boy same day with a pound got probation. Rico showed scars. Prison changed me. Made me what they said I was. Witness Puv, Rico. He studied the new guy. Something different about him. Way he held himself when he thought nobody was looking. But desperate times made strange alliances. Want some advice? Tomorrow, don't speak unless spoken to. Morrison hates when we talk. Morning came too fast. The chain bus to courthouse felt like a slave ship. Shackled ankles, caged windows. Hayes memorized every detail. The bailiff processing them whispered to another, "Full load for Morrison today. Christmas come early." They laughed. 20 lives about to be destroyed, and they laughed. In the holding cell, Hayes recognized 3 faces from his past prosecutions. None recognized him. The transformation was complete. A public defender rushed in, files spilling. "Okay, who's Jackson?" "Marcus Jackson?" Hayes raised his hand. She didn't look up. "Third strike. You're looking at 20 minimum. Plead guilty, maybe 15. She was already moving to the next case. "Wait," Hayes said. "Don't I get a defense?" She finally looked at him. Exhausted eyes, defeated spirit. "You want the truth?" Morrison convicts 98% of black defendants. You can't win. Nobody wins. She left for the next cell. From the courtroom holding area, Hayes could hear Morrison's voice. The same cadence he'd heard in recordings. but live it carried a special cruelty. 15 years, next case, bang. 20 years, next case, bang. The gavel had a rhythm, a funeral drumbeat. Other defendants paced or prayed. One young man threw up. The bailiff didn't clean it. "You'll all be doing that soon enough," he muttered. 20 years on the job, and Thompson had seen Morrison destroy generations. Same families, fathers, then sons, sometimes grandsons. He'd stopped counting at 1,000. The new guy, Jackson, sat different. Watching, listening. Most broke before entering. This one was coiling like a spring. Hayes's name echoed. Jackson, Marcus Jackson. The walk to defendant's table stretched forever. Morrison didn't look up from his papers. The courtroom smelled of wood polish and lost hope. Gallery packed with families. Some recognized him from the community, but the orange jumpsuit made him invisible. Just another statistic. The public defender mumbled introductions. Morrison finally raised his eyes. They were cold. Dead. "Mr. Jackson, I see you haven't learned from your previous mistakes." The words came practiced, rehearsed. Hayes kept his eyes down, recording everything. "Your Honor, my client pleads." Morrison cut her off. "I'll hear the plea when I'm ready, counselor." The power play, the humiliation, all documented now. Hayes felt the device in his shoe. Warm. Recording. Soon Morrison would hear his own words played back, but not yet. First, more evidence. The gavel raised, the funeral drum ready to sound. 20 years about to fall like a hammer. Hayes waited. The trap needed to close completely before it could spring. Thompson had watched Morrison for 20 years, but today felt different. The defendant Jackson sat too still, observed too much. When Morrison launched into his usual tirade about repeat offenders plaguing our community, Thompson saw Jackson's micro-flinch. Not fear, recognition. During recess, Thompson made a decision that would change everything. He cornered Jackson near the holding cell. "You're not who you say you are." Jackson's eyes stayed steady. "Neither are you." "Not anymore." Thompson glanced around, then whispered quickly, "Monthly meetings. Judge's chambers. Third Thursday. Tonight." He slipped away before guards noticed. Jackson Hayes memorized every word. The smoking gun might be loading. Back in county that night, Hayes positioned himself carefully. The vent above his bunk connected to the administrative wing. Rico noticed him listening. "What you doing, man?" Hayes trusted instinct. "Trying to hear if my lawyer's coming." Rico snorted. "Public defenders don't come to jail." But he kept watch while Hayes worked. Through the vent, voices drifted. Morrison's unmistakable baritone mixed with others. Hayes pressed the shoe against the vent grate, praying the device could capture audio through metal and distance. 50 more this month, Morrison's voice. That nets you 500,000. Another voice, older, corporate. The facilities are at 95% capacity thanks to you, Judge. Laughter. Evil had a sound, and Hayes was recording it. The evidence grew like cancer. During exercise hour, other inmates shared stories unprompted. Morrison sent my brother up for 20. Found the real dealer next week. Judge wouldn't review. Each story strengthened the pattern. Carlos watched Jackson collect testimonies like evidence. Most fish tried to survive. This one was hunting. "You writing a book or something?" Jackson smiled sadly. "Something like that." Carlos decided to trust. "I got documents. Sentence comparisons. My cellie from Morrison's court keeps records. Trying to prove discrimination for appeal." Jackson's eyes lit up. "Can I see them?" That night, Carlos shared 3 years of meticulous documentation. Names, dates, sentences, race clearly marked. The pattern wasn't just evident. It was overwhelming. Rebecca visited as his attorney, using privilege to pass information. Federal prosecutors are interested, but need more. Hayes spoke carefully, aware of monitoring. "Tell Aunt Sarah I need my heart medication. The prescription's very specific." She understood. The code meant he needed more time. "Your trial's in 3 days." Morrison had fast-tracked it. eager for another conviction. "I'll be ready." She saw his bruises from the guard's attention. "Marcus, don't. This is bigger than me." She left fighting tears. He returned to mining pain for evidence. Martinez noticed Jackson getting special attention from the old-timers. Usually they hazed fresh meat. Instead, they protected him. During count, Martinez heard whispers about the list. Some defendants Morrison targeted specially. Jackson's name had been added personally. The judge was hunting specific prey. The smoking gun arrived wrapped in violence. 2 guards cornered Hayes after dinner. "You've been asking questions." The beating was professional. Body shots that wouldn't show in court. Hayes curled around his shoe, protecting the device. They wanted him silent, not dead. Yet. Rico and 3 others tried intervening. The guards backed off, message delivered. Hayes spat blood, whispered to Rico. "Get word to Rebecca Miller, the attorney. Tell her. The package is ready." Rico understood street code. Whatever Jackson was doing, it was worth bleeding for. That made it worth helping. Witness POV, Nurse Williams. In the infirmary, Nurse Williams treated another inmate Morrison's system had brutalized. But Jackson was different. He studied everything. The medical forms, the incident reports, like he was building something from pain. "You should file a complaint," she said, knowing the futility. "I will," he said. "Very soon." Something in his voice made her believe. Morrison expedited the trial, sensing a threat he couldn't name. Hayes used every transport to gather final evidence. In the courthouse holding cell, other defendants for Morrison's morning docket shared their fears. "He's going to give me life. I know it. A kid, maybe 19. "For what?" Hayes asked. "Tagged a building. Graffiti." The public defender earlier had mentioned the white teenager who'd vandalized 30 cars. Community service and restitution. Hayes memorized the contrast. Each story was a nail in Morrison's coffin. The recording device had captured over 40 hours of evidence. Conversations, confessions, corruption. The clerk noticed Morrison's agitation. 20 years she'd worked his court, never seen him rush a case like this. Jackson was scheduled for the afternoon rocket docket, maximum sentence predetermined. She'd typed hundreds like it, but something felt different. The gallery was fuller than usual. Families who'd been through Morrison's court before, watching, waiting, like they knew something was coming. From his cell, Hayes could see the courthouse steps filling with media. Rebecca had done her part. High-profile case this afternoon, guards gossiped. Some civil rights thing. They didn't connect it to Jackson. Who'd care about another black defendant? Hayes smiled grimly. They'd learn. The FBI had the recording from the meeting, Morrison's financial crimes documented. But Hayes wanted more. He wanted the whole system exposed. Publicly, undeniably. The trial would be the stage. His body ached from the beating, but his mind was sharp, clear, focused. The device in his shoe held enough evidence to destroy Morrison and everyone connected to him. Released that morning, Rico fulfilled his promise. He found Rebecca Miller's office. Jackson said the package is ready. She understood. "Tell him. The delivery truck's waiting." Rico had no idea what drama he was enabling, but he'd seen enough injustice to recognize justice preparing to strike. Whatever Jackson was, he wasn't alone anymore. The streets were watching. The families were ready. Morrison's courtroom would become his judgment day. The only question was whether the judge would realize it before the gavel fell on his own head. The trap was set. The prey was walking in. Justice had waited long enough. The recording from Morrison's chambers played like a confession at the gates of hell. Hayes listened through the device playback, each word a nail in corruption's coffin. 50 more this month. That's 500,000 for you, Judge." The prison executive's voice was clear. Morrison's response clearer. "I prefer cash." Same as always. Small bills. They discussed logistics like grocery shopping, which defendants to target, how to ensure maximum sentences. "The Jackson kid's been asking questions," Morrison said. "Handle it." Accidents happen in county. Hayes touched his bruised ribs. not accidents. Attempted murder with plausible deniability. But they'd failed. The device had survived. FBI tech specialist Sarah Chen authenticated the recording that morning. 23 minutes of criminal conspiracy. Voice match confirmed. Morrison had sold Justice for 30 pieces of silver, paid monthly. "This is it," she told the federal prosecutor. Dead to rights. News of the authentication spread through the federal building. Warrants were prepared. But Hayes wanted more than Morrison's arrest. He wanted public revelation. The community deserved to see justice served in the same courtroom where it had been denied. Rebecca coordinated with federal marshals. "He wants to reveal himself during sentencing." The marshal shook his head. "That's dangerous." Morrison could order bailiffs. "They'll be your people." Rebecca interrupted. "Substituted this morning." The plan crystallized. Hayes would enter as defendant Jackson, leave as the prosecutor who'd brought down a corrupt system. The families filling the gallery deserved that moment. Rodriguez had arrested judges before, but never like this. The theater of it, the poetic justice. "We'll have 6 agents in the gallery. First sign of trouble, we move." He studied Morrison's file. 23 years on the bench. Thousands of lives destroyed. All for money. "Make it 7 agents, he decided. "This needs to be perfect." Morrison sensed the trap closing but couldn't identify the threat. He moved Hayes' sentencing to the afternoon rocket docket. 40 cases in 2 hours. Assembly line injustice. Hayes would be number 35. Enough time for the gallery to fill. For the media, Rebecca had alerted to position themselves. For the families to witness what they'd been denied for decades. Accountability. The courthouse buzzed with unusual energy. Witness POV, reporter Amanda Torres. Torres noticed the crowd was different. Usually Morrison's courtroom held tears and defeat. Today there was anticipation. Almost hope. She recognized families from previous stories. The Washingtons, the Thompsons, all victims of Morrison's bias. All here for... what? Her instincts screamed that something big was coming. She positioned her cameraman strategically. Whatever happened, they'd capture it. Hayes dressed carefully in county. The orange jumpsuit that marked him as less than human in Morrison's eyes. But underneath, the wire Rebecca had passed him during their last meeting. FBI issue, broadcasting everything live to the van outside. The shoe device had done its job. Now for the performance. Rico, released but lingering outside, had spread the word. Something's going down in Morrison's court. Be there. The community responded. By noon, the gallery was standing room only. Fresh from prison after 5 years, Jamal barely recognized the city, but he recognized the fire in people's eyes. His mother gripped his hand. "That's the prosecutor who visited you." She pointed at the defendant table. Jamal looked closer. The broken man in orange wasn't broken at all. He was coiled. Ready. "Mama," Jamal whispered. "I think we're about to see something." The pieces aligned. Federal marshals in position, media recording, families watching, evidence authenticated and copied. Morrison entered his courtroom for the last time as a free man, black robes flowing like a vulture's wings. He didn't notice the substitute bailiffs, didn't recognize the federal agents scattered through his gallery, didn't sense that his carefully constructed world of corruption was about to collapse. The clerk called the docket. Case after case, Morrison dispensed injustice with practiced efficiency. 10 years here, 15 there, 20 for repeat offenders. All black defendants, all receiving maximum sentences, while their white counterparts had gotten probation that morning. Hayes watched, waited, recorded. The shoe had done its job. Now for the revelation. Case number 35, State versus Marcus Jackson. Hayes stood. The moment had come. 23 years of corruption was about to end with the truth. Morrison looked at him with contempt. "Mr. Jackson, I see you're eager for your sentence." Hayes smiled. Morrison had no idea how eager. The gallery leaned forward. Phones appeared despite prohibitions. The FBI van outside monitored every word. The trap was sprung. All that remained was the reveal. Justice had been patient. Now it would be brutal. Your Honor, before you sentence me, I need to correct the record. Hayes stood straighter, shedding Marcus Jackson's slouch like a snake molting dead skin. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Sit down, Mr. Jackson. But Hayes continued rising, the transformation mesmerizing. I'm not Marcus Jackson. He reached up, removed the glasses that had disguised his features. I'm Marcus Hayes, lead prosecutor for this district. The gallery erupted. Morrison's gavel crashed repeatedly. Bailiff! Arrest this man. But the bailiff stood frozen. Federal marshals, not Morrison's men. Jamal Washington's mother gasped. The broken defendant had become an avenging angel. Phones rose like salutes. The livestream viewer count exploded. 1,000 to 10,000 in seconds. Order! Order! Morrison's voice cracked. But order had died. Truth was speaking. I've spent 2 weeks in your system, Your Honor. I've documented every biased sentence, every racist comment. Hayes pulled the wire from his jumpsuit. Everything's recorded, including this. He nodded to the clerk, who'd been turned by the FBI that morning. The speakers crackled to life. Morrison's voice filled his own courtroom. 50 more this month. That's 500,000 for you. The gallery's gasp was collective. Morrison went white. This is inadmissible, illegal recording. Hayes smiled coldly. In your court, maybe. But we're in federal jurisdiction now. The doors burst open. Marshal Rodriguez entered with 6 agents. Judge Morrison, you're under arrest for corruption, civil rights violations, and racketeering. Morrison swung the gavel wildly. You can't do this. I'm a sitting judge. The marshals approached. Morrison grabbed the bailiff's weapon. Screams erupted. Torres's cameraman caught everything. Morrison's mask had finally slipped. The distinguished judge became a cornered animal. Stay back. This is my courtroom. The standoff lasted 30 seconds that felt like hours. Hayes never moved. It's over, Judge. 23 years of destroying lives for money. It's over. Morrison's hand shook. The weapon wavered between Hayes and the marshals. You set me up. No, Hayes said quietly. You set up thousands of innocent people. I just returned the favor. Rodriguez had seen desperate men before, but watching a judge hold his own courtroom hostage was surreal. Drop the weapon, Judge Morrison. Don't make this worse. Morrison laughed bitterly. Worse? I'm finished anyway. The families in the gallery didn't flee. They stood, witnessing. Their destroyed loved ones deserved this moment. Morrison's eyes darted to the exit. Blocked. The bench that had been his throne was now his trap. You want to know the truth? Morrison's voice went high, manic. They all deserved it. Every sentence. Thugs and criminals polluting our society. Tears of rage streamed down his face. I cleaned up this city. You filled private prisons for kickbacks, Hayes responded. I have the receipts, monthly payments, offshore accounts, 23 million over 2 decades. The number hung in the air. $23 million for 23,000 years of stolen lives. Malik's mother stood slowly. Then another mother, another father. The gallery rose as one, silent, accusing. Their children's ghosts filled the courtroom. Morrison saw them all. The weight of his sins crashed down. The weapon clattered to the floor. Marshals moved instantly. The cuffs clicked with beautiful finality. Morrison, who'd sent thousands to chains, finally wore them himself. This isn't justice, Morrison screamed as they dragged him out. I am justice. Hayes picked up the fallen gavel, studied it. The weapon Morrison had used to destroy lives. No, he said quietly. You were power. Justice is what comes next. The gallery erupted, not in celebration, but in tears. Families embracing. Victims validated. The live stream count hit 50,000. Comments flooded in from across the nation. Other cities, other courtrooms, other Morrisons being identified. 20 years of transcribing Morrison's cruelty, and Janet had never spoken up. Now she stood. I have everything. Every racist comment he thought was off record. Every you people. Every biased ruling. 20 years of evidence. She looked at Hayes. I've been waiting for someone like you. The courtroom emptied slowly. Families lingered, unable to believe it was real. Hayes stood among them, still in his orange jumpsuit, the lead prosecutor who'd become a defendant to serve justice. Rebecca pushed through the crowd. You did it. He shook his head. We did it. All of us. Outside, media trucks multiplied. The story was exploding. A judge exposed. A system challenged. A community vindicated. But Hayes knew this was just beginning. Morrison was one tumor in a cancerous system. What now? Someone asked. Hayes looked at the empty bench, the fallen gavel, the galleries where justice had been denied for decades. Now we rebuild, not just here, everywhere. He walked out in his orange jumpsuit, the prosecutor who'd sacrificed everything to prove that justice wasn't about what you wore or where you sat. It was about truth. And truth had finally spoken in Morrison's courtroom. The reverberations would shake foundations nationwide. Morrison was gone. But the work, the real work, was just beginning. Within 6 hours, the dominoes fell faster than gravity. FBI raids swept through 5 courthouses. 3 more judges arrested. 17 court officials indicted. The prison corporation's stock crashed 40% before trading was halted. Hayes, still in his orange jumpsuit, testified before an emergency session of the state Supreme Court. 2,847 cases require review. The Chief Justice's voice trembled. That's just Morrison's court? That's just the past 5 years, Hayes corrected. The real number is closer to 10,000. Senator Williams had ignored constituent complaints for years. Now, watching Hayes present evidence, she felt complicit. The systematic destruction of Black families had happened under her watch. We need emergency legislation, tonight. Her colleagues nodded. Political survival demanded action. Justice demanded transformation. The release orders started at midnight. Families gathered outside prisons statewide. Buses chartered by civil rights groups waited. Officer Jackson had worked Pelican Bay for 15 years. Never seen anything like it. Jamal Washington, immediate release. Then another name, another. By dawn, he'd processed 300 releases. Men who'd been buried alive for minor offenses walked free. Some had been inside so long they feared the open sky. Jamal Washington emerged to find his son waiting, 8 years old now. Daddy? The boy was tentative. Jamal knelt. I'm home, son. I'm finally home. They embraced while cameras captured the moment. One family among hundreds reuniting. Each a testament to Morrison's cruelty and Hayes's courage. The legislative session ran through the night. Hayes testified for 3 hours, still wearing the orange jumpsuit that had become his armor. Mandatory oversight, algorithm-assisted sentencing reviews, citizen panels with real power. Opponents tried deflecting. This is one bad judge. No, Hayes interrupted. This is a system that protected him for 23 years. He produced documents, complaints filed and ignored, reports buried, whistleblowers silenced. We knew. You knew. Everyone knew. But knowing wasn't enough. We needed proof that couldn't be ignored. Maria had drafted criminal justice bills for years. All died in committee. Now she watched her bosses scramble to support reform. Fear motivated what conscience couldn't. The Morrison scandal had gone viral. Celebrities tweeted. Protesters surrounded capitals nationwide. Reform wasn't just right anymore. It was politically necessary. The ripple effects reached Washington. The Attorney General announced a nationwide review. Operation Equal Justice would examine sentencing disparities in all federal districts. Hayes was invited to lead it. He declined. I'm needed here. Instead, he recommended Rebecca Miller, who'd orchestrated the takedown from outside. Her appointment was confirmed within days. The old guard protested. She's an activist, not a prosecutor. Exactly, Hayes replied. That's what we need. Judge Chen had served alongside Morrison for decades, attended the same conferences, heard the same jokes, never spoke up. Now she implemented every reform voluntarily: cameras in chambers, sentencing algorithms, monthly bias reviews. Guilt was a powerful motivator. I should have stopped him, she told Hayes. Then stop the next one, he replied, before someone else has to go undercover. Corporate complicity crumbled under scrutiny. The prison company's CEO was arrested at his country club. Board members fled the country. Internal emails revealed the scope. Dozens of judges, hundreds of officials, thousands of bribes, all to fill cells with bodies, preferably black bodies. They lasted longer, generated more revenue. The emails used those exact words. Thompson had worked under Hayes, respected him, but watching him in that orange jumpsuit, testifying with bruises still visible, Thompson felt ashamed. How many times had he plea bargained innocent people into Morrison's courtroom? I want to help, he told Hayes. Start by reviewing your own cases, Hayes replied. Everyone. Free the innocent first. Then we talk about redemption. 6 months later, the transformation was measurable. Sentencing disparities dropped 78%. Citizen oversight committees had real power. Technology flagged bias in real time. Other states copied the model. The Morrison reforms became shorthand for accountability. But Hayes knew better. In a coffee shop, he met with formerly incarcerated leaders. This isn't enough, one said. Morrison's gone, but the system that created him remains. Hayes nodded. Then we keep pushing. Morrison was the symptom. We're after the disease. Jamal's restoration company hired only returning citizens. His first contract, renovating Morrison's old courtroom. Poetic justice, he told his crew. They stripped everything. The oppressive wood paneling, the throne-like bench, the gallery where families had wept. In its place, light, open space, accessibility. Make it a place where justice lives, Jamal instructed, not where it dies. The gavel Morrison's weapon sat in a museum now, next to slave shackles and Jim Crow signs, history's instruments of oppression. School groups visited. Teachers explained how one prosecutor's courage had exposed decades of corruption, how ordinary people's testimony had brought down a tyrant, how systems could change when communities demanded it. But Hayes kept the recording device, a reminder. Justice required vigilance, always, because somewhere, another Morrison was developing, another system was corrupting, another community was suffering. The work never ended, it just evolved. Morrison was in federal prison, 25 years. Poetic justice for a man who'd handed out centuries. But Hayes didn't celebrate. Freedom for the wrongfully convicted was celebration enough. The system had bent toward justice. Finally. Painfully. But bent nonetheless. And Hayes would keep pushing until it broke completely and rebuilt itself in equity's image. That was the real verdict. Not Morrison's conviction, but the community's resurrection. The Community Justice Center opened where Morrison's courthouse once stood, its glass walls a deliberate contrast to the old stone fortress. Inside, former inmates counseled new releases. From systematic oppression to systematic support, the motto read. Hayes visited weekly, still limping from injuries that would never fully heal. Patricia had served 7 years under Morrison's gavel for a first offense. Now she guided others through re-entry. "Mr. Hayes," she called out, "your 2 o'clock is here." The young man looked terrified. Fresh out after 5 years. "Jobs don't want us," he mumbled. Patricia smiled. "Jamal Washington's hiring. Construction company. Good wages. Second chances." She handed him the application. Watched hope kindle in dead eyes. This was healing, one person at a time. Across the city, transformation bloomed like spring after endless winter. Malik Thompson, the pre-med student whose harsh sentence had sparked protests, was back in school. Full scholarship. Speaking engagements about justice reform. "I lost 3 years," he told audiences, "but I gained purpose." His mother Rose sat front row at every speech. Pride replacing pain. Martinez had taught pre-med for 20 years, never had a student like Malik. The young man studied with desperate intensity. "Why push so hard?" Martinez asked once. Malik's answer haunted him. Every day I succeed proves Morrison wrong. I'm not you people. I'm a future doctor. That's my revenge. Healing. The ripple effects reached unexpected places. Law schools nationwide revised curricula. Bias in jurisprudence became required study. Hayes taught monthly seminars, sharing the recordings that had exposed Morrison. Students sat transfixed. Future prosecutors, defenders, judges, learning how easily justice could corrupt. Question everything, Hayes repeated, especially authority, especially yourself. One student raised her hand. How do we know we won't become Morrison? Hayes smiled sadly. You don't. That's why you need systems, oversight, accountability. Good intentions aren't enough. Jennifer Chen, no relation to Rebecca, had chosen law after watching Morrison's arrest livestream. Now she studied under Hayes. His Tuesday seminar was standing room only. He taught in the same clothes he'd worn undercover. Reminder of the price. Justice isn't abstract, he'd say. It has names, faces, families he'd show photos. The Washingtons, the Thompsons, thousands more. Remember them when you practice. They're why we exist. Technology became an ally. The Morrison algorithm named with bitter irony-flagged sentencing disparities in real time. Any judge deviating from guidelines by race triggered automatic review. Courtrooms live-streamed proceedings. Transparency replaced shadowy discretion. Kesha Williams had coded the algorithm after her brother died in Morrison's prison pipeline. Each line of code was memorial, revenge, prevention. It works, she told Hayes during beta testing. Bias can't hide from math. But Hayes reminded her, math needs enforcement. Algorithms need advocates. Technology serves justice, doesn't replace it. Together they refined the system, making it harder for future Morrisons to hunt. 1 year later, the statistics told stories of resurrection. Recidivism down 60%, employment for returning citizens up 80%, families reunited, communities rebuilding. But numbers couldn't capture everything, couldn't measure a father teaching his son to ride a bike after missing 5 birthdays, couldn't quantify a mother's tears when her daughter graduated, the degree Morrison had tried to steal, couldn't calculate the value of trust slowly, painfully restored. Reverend Johnson had protested Morrison for decades. Now he worked with Hayes on restoration. Healing takes longer than hurting, he said during a community meeting. Morrison stole 23 years. We can't give those back, but we can make the next 23 count. The room filled with victims, families, former inmates, murmured agreement. They were building something, not just reformed systems, reformed souls. Hayes aged quickly. The undercover work had cost more than bruises, but he kept working. Meeting with victims, training prosecutors, testifying before Congress, always carrying the recording device that had exposed Morrison. Talisman, warning, promise. Why keep fighting? Rebecca asked once. They were reviewing clemency petitions, thousands still wrongly imprisoned nationwide. Hayes touched the device, remembered his cousin Deshaun, dead at 21. Morrison hadn't killed him, but Morrison's spiritual brothers had. Because someone has to, he said simply, because the work isn't done until the last innocent person walks free. Outside, construction continued on the Justice Center. Jamal Washington's crew, all former inmates, built something beautiful where oppression once reigned. The metaphor wasn't subtle. It didn't need to be. Sometimes justice needed clear symbols. Morrison's courthouse was gone. In its place, hope grew, fragile, precious, protected by vigilance and fed by courage. The community that Morrison had tried to destroy was rebuilding itself, stronger, wiser, united. The scars remained. Some wounds never heal, but scars could be reminders, warnings, maps to avoid future harm. And in the Justice Center's glass walls, reflecting the city Morrison had terrorized, those scars became testimonies. Never forget. Never again. Never stop fighting. Because somewhere, another Morrison was rising, and somewhere, another Hayes was preparing to stop him. 1 year after Morrison's gavel fell for the last time, Thousands gathered at the new Justice Memorial, where the old courthouse's stone steps once segregated, glass stairs now invited all. The memorial wall bore 2,847 names, each representing a life Morrison stole, a family he shattered. 8-year-old Marcus Thompson traced his uncle's name with small fingers. His mother explained quietly, "Uncle Malik lost 3 years, but he's in medical school now." The boy nodded solemnly. Even children understood injustice here, and more importantly, they understood resistance. Hayes spoke last, the recording device visible in his hand. "This belonged to Deshaun Hayes, my cousin, wrongfully convicted at 19, died in prison at 21. Different judge, same system." He paused. "Morrison's in federal prison. 3 more judges followed. 17 officials convicted. The private prison company bankrupted. Some call that justice," the crowd murmured. "I call it a beginning." He held up the device. Because Morrison wasn't unique. He was comfortable, protected by silence, enabled by indifference, funded by greed. The statistics scrolled on screens around the plaza. Sentencing disparities, down 89%. Wrongful convictions overturned, 3,847 and counting. States adopting Morrison reforms, 34. Lives rebuilt, immeasurable. But numbers lie, Hayes continued. They say we've won. Look closer. In courtrooms nationwide, bias still breathes. Quietly now, carefully. But breathing. Rebecca watched her former partner, scarred, aged, unbroken wake the comfortable. This was why she'd recruited him. Not for the takedown, but for this. The eternal vigilance. The refusal to declare victory while injustice evolved. Your courthouse needs watching. Your judges need oversight. Your prosecutors need courage. Hayes's voice carried across the plaza. Check your local sentencing data. Attend proceedings. Document disparities. Demand transparency. He raised the device higher. Share your stories. Not just touching stories of survival, but Black stories of resistance. Real-life stories that expose ongoing injustice. Visit justicewatch.org, because life stories like Morrison's victims shouldn't repeat. The memorial's centerpiece gleamed. Morrison's gavel transformed. No longer a weapon, but a warning, encased in glass, surrounded by photos of those he'd sentenced. Above it, etched deep, "Never again." Below it, smaller but insistent, "Keep watching." As crowds dispersed, families lingered. The Washingtons, the Thompsons, hundreds more. They touched names, shared stories, planned tomorrow's oversight meetings. The work continued. Morrison was gone, but his shadow stretched long. Other shadows waited in other courtrooms. "Ready?" Rebecca asked Hayes. He pocketed the device, Deshaun's device, the movement's device, Justice's device. Always. Tomorrow brought new trials, new Morrisons, new chances to choose justice over comfort. The gavel struck differently now. Each bang a question. Who watches? Who speaks? Who acts? The answer walked out into the city. Everyone. Starting now. Starting here. Starting with you. Because touching stories weren't enough. Black stories deserved justice. Real-life stories demanded action. And life stories like these, stories of systematic oppression and community resistance, they weren't ending. They were beginning.